Nylander got traded to Columbus. This is crazy, guys. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's Alex Nylander. Alex Nylander has gotten traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets alongside of a conditional 2026 sixth-round pick from the Penguins in exchange for Emil Bemstrom. Now, this is a very minor trade, but it is one featuring two names that I think if you've been paying attention a lot to the prospect system and the young guys around the league, you probably are a bit familiar with both Nylander and Bemstrom. This trade is pretty interesting because it feels honestly like the Pittsburgh Penguins got themselves the better deal here. And here's why. Alexander Nylander, this season playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins, was not really all too great. He had himself 5 games played and 0 points, was pretty good in the AHL though. In fact, he's always been pretty good in the AHL, just never really was able to make it work too hard in the NHL, aside from the 26-point year he had with the Chicago Blackhawks 4 seasons ago. Nylander was initially a top pick by the Buffalo Sabres in the 2016 draft, and he was seen by many as potentially being better than his older brother William Nylander. So, you could imagine the hype around this guy when he was initially a Buffalo Sabres player and a Rochester American, and essentially, what Nylander brought was a promise because William was so good right out of the gate. That unfortunately did not happen, which is why Alex Nylander bounced around to all these different teams, Buffalo to Chicago to Pittsburgh and now over to Columbus. But the interesting thing about this is that you also had yourselves Emil Bemstrom in this deal included. He's 24 years old, 5'10", 194 right-handed guy heading over to Pittsburgh, a 4th-round pick in the 2017 draft, and he has been, for the most part, a better NHL player than Alex Nylander. This year, Bemstrom had 11 points in 32 games played with the Blue Jackets and was almost at 2 points a game with the Cleveland Monsters in the AHL. He has just straight up been better, which is why, if you take a look at this trade and what went down, the Blue Jackets ended up needing to get an extra piece to make everything work. Pittsburgh had to give up Nylander and a conditional 6th in order to get Bemstrom, but realistically, this is a change of scenery trade for both of these guys. They've both struggled pretty hard in their systems. For Bemstrom, this was always a player that Jarmo Kekalainen seemed to like, and a guy who was always seeming to have chances after chance given to him, but ever since this season, he had been sent down, he'd been not used all too much, which is why he had gotten traded away today. Just as a change of scenery thing, this is probably going to be more beneficial for him than if he stuck around in Columbus. Meanwhile, for Alexander Nylander, you are literally getting the worst asset here. He's older, he is not as good, he doesn't produce as many points, but if he's able to revive his career in some capacity, then okay, there's value there in Alexander Nylander. Plus, of course, the draft pick helps, but it's a conditional 2026 6th-round pick. This isn't really like the biggest needle mover in the world. So if you are a fan of the Pittsburgh Penguins or the Columbus Blue Jackets, let me know your thoughts about this entire thing. In fact, just to fill out the watch time of this video a little bit more, let's go out there and read the article that is published on the Blue Jackets website over here. Oh, look at that. Stinger is also on the bottom of the page once again. Ask a question. I'm sorry, Stinger. I'm going to have to X out of you there for now, buddy. But Blue Jackets acquire Nylander and a 6th-round pick from Pittsburgh. CBJ have acquired Nylander and the pick for Emil Bemstrom. President of Hockey Operations and Alternative Governor John Davidson announced today Nylander has been recalled and is expected to join the Blue Jackets prior to Friday's game against the Buffalo Sabres at Nationwide Arena. Okay, so Nylander will get his opportunity to play in Columbus right away. This is not any wasted time on their part. They're wanting to use this guy right now. Nylander, 25, has recorded 14 goals and 20 assists for 34 points in the 98 career games with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Chicago Blackhawks, and Sabres since making his debut in 2016-17. He set NHL career highs with 10 goals and 16 assists and 26 points in the 65 games with the Hawks in 2019-20, so that was the career year that he had. This season, he has registered 10 shots in 5 games with the Penguins. Okay, so no goals, no assists. They are just listing out the 10 shots that he had. Okay, that's interesting. A native of Calgary, Alberta, he was initially selected by the Sabres in the 8th overall spot, yada yada yada. I mean, it just kind of goes over most of his AHL profile here. He also captured the CHL and OHL Rookie of the Year awards in 2015-16, which is partly why he was such a highly touted prospect in the 2016 draft in the first place. I mean, he went 8th gosh darn overall. If you want to take a look at other names that were taken in this spot, I mean, Nylander is just one of many that has been pretty disappointing from this top 10. Nylander, Olli Juolevi, Jesse Puljujärvi, all disappointing guys, and then you have Mikhail Sergachev, who was taken right after, so that's a pretty good player. Charlie McAvoy, Jacob Chychrun, Dante Fabro, lots of good players over here that were taken above Nylander, unfortunately so, but he was a very highly touted player back in this time frame, which is why he had that hype attached to him. Then, he also represented Team Sweden in various international tournaments, including the 2023 IIHF World Championships, as well as the 2016, 17, and 18 Silver IIHF World Junior Championships. Meanwhile, for Emil Bemstrom, the guy going over to Pittsburgh, he has all of these stats over here. 6 feet, 195-pound winger, 11 points and 10 penalty minutes in 32 games this season with the regular Columbus Blue Jackets, and added the really crazy numbers he's had with the Cleveland Monsters this season. The Blue Jackets return to action on Friday. Okay. That is the scoop there. So, realistically, this is a minor trade. Not really something that moves the needle all too much, but it is two guys that hopefully are going to be able to revive parts of their careers from this move. Nylander needs a little bit more of a change of scenery. Bemstrom, you could say, now that Jarmo Kekalainen is gone, there's a willingness to trade him away now because there's not too much loyalty there. So, for both of these guys, if they're going to be playing NHL minutes, this is a great trade. Nylander was not getting any of that with the Pittsburgh Penguins this season because he just wasn't good enough to crack that team. Meanwhile, for Bemstrom, I mean, hopefully he is able to find himself a role, because if there's anybody that's able to take these random AHL guys and bring them into nothing, Sidney Crosby has always been that guy. Now, Bemstrom has been better than an AHL player the past few years, but the fact is he has been just a lot better than Nylander, so there is a balance here that does make sense when you try to break the trade down asset via asset. So, again, Penguins fans, Blue Jackets fans, Wilkes-Barre Scranton fans, and Cleveland Monster fans, what are your thoughts on these two guys getting swapped around for each other? Columbus Blue Jackets and Pittsburgh Penguins make it a trade for two depth forwards. Not the biggest deal in the world, but it is kind of funny that Nylander, of all people, ended up getting traded because, yeah, everybody knows about his older brother and how good that guy has been in the NHL in Toronto. If Alex Nylander is ever going to have some sort of a shade of what William Nylander has accomplished, then this could be seen as a pretty good deal. I don't think that's ever going to be possible at this point, but I do remember back in 2016, there was this sentiment saying, hey, he could be better. Like, he could be the better Nylander. It always happens like that, right? The younger brother of an NHL superstar is always seen as potentially being better. The Jordan Subans come to mind. The Alexander Nylander situation is here. Nick Robertson, right? So it's very odd seeing that always manifest itself. But either way, thoughts in the comment section below about the Nylander for Bemstrom trade between Columbus and Pittsburgh. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.